What's up, traders? Chris Cooper here, SecondSkiesForex.com. So, girlfriend and I were in between episodes of Game of Thrones and looking for something to watch. And she recommended something that I initially said no. But she said, "Look, I've watched 15 minutes of it. You're going to love it." And after I started watching the first episode, I was just totally in love with it. It blew my mind. The stories, the background, the highs and the lows, the failures, the massive success to making billions of dollars. It was such a great documentary series that I'd recommend every trader should watch. And the lessons in here are not just great for you as a trader, but you can carry them into your life as well. And the documentary series is called The Defiant Ones. And it's about two people. One of them you probably know, and one of them you probably don't know. And the first one is Dr. Dre, who you probably know, and the other one is Jimmy Iovine, who you, unless you really are familiar with the music industry, you probably didn't know about him or haven't heard that name before, but you're going to want to. So, during this four-part series, I learned about Jimmy Iovine, who had worked with Bruce Springsteen and Stevie Nicks and Bono and U2 and Tom Petty and some of the great performers of our time. How he was kind of the engineer and the producer and the force behind that. And then you have Dr. Dre, who grew up in Compton with absolutely no favorable conditions, for him becoming what he is today, and who eventually formed NWA and then, kind of went solo. And, there's, working with Snoop Dogg and all these different things and Death Row Records. It is just an amazing series that I highly recommend you watch. I think you can watch on Amazon Prime and stream it. But since there are four episodes, I thought I would share four poignant lessons from this series. And to be honest, I could spend hours talking about all the lessons that you can learn from this as traders, but I've decided to pick these four, and so that's what we're going to do with this video. So, the first one we are going to talk about is being there for opportunities and taking advantage of opportunities. And also showing up, because sometimes you don't know when an opportunity is going to show up or going to be there. But if you don't show up and you're not there to take advantage of it, that's a lost opportunity. That's kind of like your trade setup happening perfectly, but in the middle of the night when you're asleep. Or it's more like your trade setup happening when you're right in front of the screen but not pulling the trigger. And then it ends up working out perfectly and makes a ton of money. So we're going to get into this first clip here. This is about Jimmy Iovine. Keep in mind, he came from a family in New York, Brooklyn, and his dad was a dock worker. He didn't succeed in school. This is somebody who just got a job working as, kind of just like turning on tapes and off in a recording studio. And so let's go ahead and watch this first clip here.
And then one day, Roy called me at home. It was Easter Sunday. And he said, "I need you to come in today to answer the phones." Went to my mother. I said, "Mom, I got to go to work." She said, "Are you crazy? It's Easter Sunday. Your family's coming over, your aunts, your uncles, all your cousins are coming here. You have to go to church." So I went into work. And when I got there, I went, "Oh, okay." Roy said, "I just wanted to see if you would come in on Easter Sunday. The assistant engineer can't make it, and John and I want you to do it."
So the first lesson here is about not only taking advantage of opportunities, but being there for opportunities. You can't profit from a trade that is setting itself up right now if you're not at the computer screen or you're not watching the markets. You can't take advantage of business opportunities if you are off just kind of vacationing or not working or playing video games or whatever. I recently read this article that I thought was kind of ridiculous because it was talking about like, oh, well, you should just place a trade and then you can just go to the, on vacation in the Caribbean and then you just come back and watch how you're up, like, plus 5R or 8R or 9R or billion R or whatever. You know, and I kind of want, I really thought about this. I'm like, wow, that's really missing the whole point of trading. It really misses the whole mindset of a trader. Is that if you are off on vacation in the Caribbean islands and you're not paying attention to the charts, you're not watching the screens, you're not watching the markets or anything like that, there is no opportunities for you. There are only opportunities for people who show up. There are only opportunities for people who are there when the opportunity lands. And if you're not there, it's gone. Now, yeah, you could be like sleeping or something like that, and you have to, and something happens during your normal hours. There's nothing you can do about that. But if there's a chance for you to be there for a trade and you didn't take it because you were not being disciplined, or you're like spending time on Facebook or seeing how many likes you had, or playing video games, then there is no opportunities for you. And you know it's super important that you are there for opportunities, and because you do not know when they're going to show up, and that you take advantage of when they do come, because you don't know when the next one is going to come. You just don't know. This is super important. The whole idea that you should just like make a trade and then go on vacation just for 9 days and skip the markets, that's just, it's a very misleading picture about what trading is about. Trading is about taking advantage of opportunities, and to do that you have to be there. And so it's super important. Jimmy Iovine was, you know, it was Easter Sunday. He comes from an Italian family. They're very religious. They're very, everything's focused around family. And so for him to tell his mom that he's got to go into work because the main engineer is gone and he's the only one available, that was probably very, very hard for him to do. And he probably felt pretty conflicted about it. But, you know, his boss told him, and he felt like, look, I have to be there. This is my job. This is my work. I have to show up. I have to be there for this opportunity. And lo and behold, that particular opportunity, that particular day that he was asked to show up, was John Lennon in the studio. And that changed his life forever. Imagine if he was off on that vacation in the Caribbean islands that the other person is talking about. Imagine if he was sitting there, too busy on Facebook or playing video games or something like that to be there for that opportunity. Imagine the trajectory of his life of, somebody who ended up being part of a multi-billion-dollar sale of his company versus the person who missed that opportunity. They could be two completely different people, and he may never have been the successful person that he is today. So it's super important that you are there for opportunities, that you present yourself, that you make yourself available, that you work to be there for opportunities, and that you're thinking about them. Like, how can I be available for this opportunity? How can I change these things in my life? How can I make opportunity? How can I make time for these things? If you really want to succeed in something, you have to show up. You have to be there for it. You have to work hard for it. You have to be there for when the opportunity comes, because you don't know when it's going to happen. So that's the first lesson in this here. The next clip I want to show you has to do with um, dealing with losses and still be willing to take risks when you get that feeling. Not being self-indulged, like, oh my god, I've lost all this money, how am I going to get it back, and oh god, I'm horrible at this, and why is this not work out for, why don't I win every single trade? No, it's, Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine, they had many setbacks, both individually and collectively. And in this next clip, we're actually coming off of a period where they were working together, and Dr. Dre had put out two albums that were duds. They were total flops. They just didn't do well at all. So he's feeling the pressure from his, bosses and everything, and he's feeling the pressure that he's got to get something, but he's really, really struggling because he's almost on his way out. And this next clip is absolutely fascinating.
My general manager had this 8 by 10 picture and was like, Dre, this boy's got blue eyes. What are we doing?
We weren't looking for a white controversial rapper. We were looking for great.
Both of us were in really bad situations, and not only did we click with the music, we became friends.
He's my friend. He's really my friend. He's pretending, but that's my friend.
I thought he was really clever. I thought he was saying some crazy stuff, you know? The stuff he was saying was just so out there, you know? But I trusted Dre.
It's just like, okay, fuck it. I'm throwing the dice. I'm betting all the marbles on Eminem.
I knew he was taking a risk, but I just didn't know how much internal shit he was fighting. You know, I owe him my life for that.
So there is Dr. Dre. He's had two complete flops, two complete failed trades, so to say. And he's possibly going to lose his role in the company, his work, everything that he's worked so hard for and gone through to get to this point. But yet he has this gut feeling about Eminem. Keep in mind, Eminem hasn't done anything. He hasn't recorded anything. He hasn't. He's had these tapes and things like that, but he hasn't produced. There's been nothing that's been out there, other than some rap battles and some mixtapes that he gave to individuals or groups at these little rap battles. He's produced nothing to this point. But Dre has a gut feeling about him. He senses that there's some magic happening here. And he understands that if he's wrong on this, that's it. He could be out. He just like that right edge of the chart, you know, where you don't know what's going to happen next. He didn't know that Eminem was going to be a superstar. You know, it's easy to look back now. He's like, oh, it was Eminem. You can just see he was great. Nobody fucking knew who Eminem was at that time. Nobody had any clue about this guy. And he's getting pressure from his partners saying, look, you know, this is not the guy we're looking for. You know, we're not looking for a rapper that is white and blonde hair and blue eyes. This is not what we're looking for. But despite all the noise, despite what everybody else was saying, he trusted his gut and he was willing to risk that on a feeling that he had. Gut feel is an important thing for you to develop as traders. It's not just a physical thing, it's a psychological thing. And it's a very real thing. And you have to be willing to forget about all your prior losses and put yourself back on the horse again. You have to get back on the saddle again. Okay, I'm willing to go at this again. Yes, I could lose my next trade. I have no idea what's going to happen with this next trade. Just like Dr. Dre had no idea what was going to happen with Eminem. And yet he was willing to take that risk again. That's what it is to be a trader. To not just accept risk, but be willing to take risk in the face of losses. And then knowing that you're probably going to lose many, many times and that you can still get back up again. This is part of the reason why trading is so tough, because your brain psychologically isn't probably meant to deal with as many losses that you will face in trading. It's much easier to go for your sure wins. You know, you get your job with your fixed paycheck and you know exactly how much you're getting at, you know, twice a month, and you know exactly what you have to do. It's easier to go for things that are fixed, things that are solid, things that are predictable. There's nothing about trading in terms of performance and returns on these things and what the market's going to present to you that is predictable, other than you know the market's going to move the next day, and you know that's it. That's all you know, is that the market's going to move the next day. You don't know how, you don't know what. Anything can happen at any point in time. It can totally change this, blow your trade out of the water, or send it sky high to the moon. You just don't know. So you're dealing with a lot of things that are unsubstantial, that are not solid, that are not fixed, that are not known. And you have to be willing to get back on that horse again, in spite of potentially losing everything, in spite of, you know, losing again. You have to continually do this. That's what successful traders do. That's what we do. We lose, we get back on the horse again. We lose, we get back on the horse again. You know, we trust our instincts, we trust our gut feel, we trust that we're going to eventually get one, and we understand that we can make this work. We're willing to deal with uncertainty and risk. And we're continually getting back on that saddle again and again and again. This is a super important lesson for a trader. This next clip I want to talk about is, okay, what do you do when you're down? When things are going wrong in your life. I get a lot with a lot of students. I hear a lot of things from my students, and there's some great stories and success stories and people making it. And then there's some stories of people really struggling, and not just with trading, but with their life as well. And I get to hear these stories, and some people handle it well and they take it on the chin, and other people get really down and self-absorbed and depressed and think the world's going to end, and they're just kind of desperate and not sure what to do. And so I want to share this next clip with you that shows that, okay, when things are going wrong, there is a chance for you to transform that energy in a very constructive way. So let's listen into this, because something's happened with Jimmy Iovine, and he talks about this specifically.
I was frustrated with music business. I was frustrated that I just got divorced, and I had no center. And whenever I get sad or I get scared or I get in trouble in any way, I wish I knew other therapeutic ways of doing things. But the only thing I know how to do is completely bury myself to a point of absurdity into my work.
So this is the third lesson. This is a super important lesson because, trust me, after 17 years in this game, I've had some highs and lows, and everything across the spectrum, and there's some wide swings in just energy and experience and hope and failure and all these things. You are going to have these moments. There is nobody who's had an unblemished trading career. There are people who've had stellar returns, like Paul Tudor Jones, and then guess what? He's been losing money for the last 3 years. He's running into one of those periods right now. The guy was one of the most legendary traders and investors of our time, and yet he's in a 3-year losing streak. So you are going to have moments as a trader in your career that are going to be highs, and they're going to be great, and there's going to be some lows. And they could be things that are happening inside of your trading life, or there could be things that are happening outside of your trading life in your personal life that affect everything that you do. And Jimmy is very candidly saying, look, I get scared, I get worried, I have doubts and all these things. He's not saying that he doesn't have these things. He's saying he experiences those things. But what happens is, for him, is that he says, okay, I need to do something with this. I need to, constructively deal with this situation. And he even admits he has a very limited tool set for doing this. But the one tool he does have is that he can bury himself in his work and take that energy, that anger, that frustration, that sadness, that doubt, and just transform that and channel that into his work. And it ends up being something that he experiences over and over and over again as he has these setbacks, these pullbacks in his trend, in the trend of his life. He is able to kind of say, okay, I need to do something with this. It's not that I'm not scared or doubtful or worried or sad or depressed. I am feeling those things, but what can I do about it? This is a super important lesson, that you learn to transform those experiences and use that energy, because if you don't, it's lost. It's just going to weigh you down. It's just going to drag you down. If you get self-absorbed in that sadness, that depression, those things, it will weigh you down, and it will affect everything they do. And I guarantee you will not be making money during that time trading. If you really want to be making money if you really want to make money, you have to be able to transform these experiences. If you want to be successful, it's not just trading, but anything in life that you do, you're going to have to transform these setbacks in your life. And Jimmy has this ability to just say, okay, I'm going to channel this, and it ends up leading to some of his biggest opportunities, which actually segues into our next clip about he had just had these experiences, and they said, okay, I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to bury myself in the work. And all of a sudden, an opportunity arises.
So we're just sitting down shooting the shit, and I told him about my lawyer approaching me about
There's a sneaker company that wants you to endorse something.
And I'm like, man, listen, I don't know anything about fashion or anything like that. So I'm telling Jimmy this story, and out of the blue, he's like, Dre, man, fuck sneakers.
No, you don't sell sneakers, you sell speakers.
Fuck sneakers.
You should do speakers.
All kinds of different speakers.
Speakers and headphones. And he said, we could do that? I said, we can
absolutely do that.
And I'm like, yeah, you know what? And we could call it beats. He's like, that's it. And he just got up and left.
So Jimmy Iovine has just had a divorce with someone who he really loved, and he's saying, "Okay, I need to do something about this. I'm sad, depressed. I need to channel my energy into work." So he starts, looking around for opportunities. There's that tip again. And he's walking down the beach, and he's walking by Dr. Dre's house. Dr. Dre just happens to be out there, and he says, "Jimmy, come on up." And they sit on that little chair on the deck, and Dre tells him the story. And if Jimmy wasn't there and looking for the opportunity, showing up for the opportunity, he never would have got it. But Jimmy recognized that right in this moment. He said, "Look," he's like, "this is something you should do. This is something you're going to do." And I really thought this was poignant because we all know, or you should know, about Beats. Beats was sold to Apple a few years ago for $3 billion, making Dr. Dre the first ever billionaire hip hop mogul. And, keep in mind that this was after the whole thing with Eminem, which was, he found Eminem and he took a risk on Eminem coming from a loss, coming from several losses. He didn't know that Eminem was going to be a big thing, but Eminem ended up being a big thing, and he learned to risk in that moment. And so now Dr. Dre put himself, because he was willing to take a risk again, he was able to put himself back in the game. And so Jimmy's looking for work. He's thinking opportunistically. He's showing up for opportunities. Dr. Dre says, "Look, there's just some that happens to be going on right now." And Jimmy's eyes are open. He's paying attention because his mind is focused on work. His subconscious is paying attention for opportunities that are rising. If you're not thinking about opportunities, if you're not looking for them, if you're not like subconsciously, just on the lookout for them, they could be happening, but you're not hearing them because your mind isn't tuned towards those things. You're focused on other things. You're focused on gambling or playing golf or going on your Caribbean vacation like this other trader recommended. You're focused on the wrong things. And what ends up happening, which is kind of an interesting part of this story, is that after Jimmy walked away, only a couple days later, he calls up Dr. Dre and he drags him into a room, and there's like hundreds of headsets on the tables. And Dre's like, "Oh, wow, we're really doing this." And what he didn't realize is that Jimmy's a force, man. Jimmy, when you watch this series, you realize this man is an unstoppable force. He's kind of like the juggernaut. He's just relentlessly moving forward, and it doesn't matter if there's obstacles in his way. It doesn't matter what it is. He has this no obstacle mindset. He just keeps moving forward. He just sees the solution, and anything that gets in his way is just a challenge to him that he has to overcome. And so, he has this no obstacle mindset. And this is something that you're going to have as a trader, because you're going to have these setbacks. That you're probably not going to be in a situation where you just happen to have, a few $100,000 sitting around to pay your bills for the next year, and then you can take this time off to learn trading full time. There's probably many of you that don't really have what I would call favorable conditions to really learn trading. I didn't have that when I first started. I had a job when I first started learning how to trade. I had to, stay up from on California time. I stayed up through the London Open. I was trading the London Open. So that means in California, I was up at 12 o'clock for the London Open. But I wasn't actually up at 12 o'clock. I've been working all day, teaching yoga, working with my private clients and everything like that. I've been working hard physically. I was physically exhausted. Yet when I got home, I was focusing on trading. So from 9 till 1:30 I was trading. And then guess what? I was up at 5 or 5:30 practicing yoga and meditation again. I didn't get much sleep. I didn't necessarily have favorable conditions. I had to work another full-time job while learning how to trade. That's how I started off. So you're probably not going to have a lot of favorable conditions, and you're probably not going to have everything set up for that. You're going to experience challenges. You're going to experience obstacles. You're going to experience, you know, uh, financial challenges. You're going to have challenge with time and sleep and all these things. That's what it is to be successful, not just in trading, but in life. To be successful at business, all these things, you're going to have to push your limits. You're going to have to expand out of your comfort zone. Whatever you think is success to you, it's more than what you have right now. Because if it wasn't, you'd already have it. If you already had everything you need to succeed right now, you had the mindset, you had the wiring, you had the mental effort, you had the physical effort, you had the energy for it, you'd be doing that right now. But you aren't. You're going to run into obstacles, and you have to have this no obstacle mindset. So Jimmy, coming out of a low, was able to constructively channel his energy, find an opportunity, and then work relentlessly towards that. And what ended up happening was that after a few years, Beats was sold to Apple for $3 billion. That wouldn't have happened if you were on that Caribbean island on that vacation. That wouldn't happen if you weren't subconsciously looking for these opportunities. That wouldn't happen if you were constantly getting self-absorbed every time you experience some hard losses. These are super important lessons for you, not just in trading, but in life as well. And so I can't, I can't recommend this series enough. Those are my 4 lessons. And I can't really recommend this enough. And, to be honest, after watching this, I was a fan of Dr. Dre's music before. I didn't even know who the fuck Jimmy Iovine was, but I totally appreciate his energy and just his relentless forward-moving energy, this no obstacle mindset. I mean, he just doesn't see obstacles as problems. He sees them as challenges to overcome. But then also Dr. Dre, I liked his music, but I have, after watching this, I have a greater appreciation for what he is as a person than what he's done in the music world. And what he's done in the music world is fucking amazing. And where he came from Compton to where he is today, he had to change who he was many times over to become who he is today, become the successful person he is today. If he didn't make those changes, he wouldn't be where he is. And to come from what he's done, some of the most least favorable conditions possible, to where he is today, I just have so much appreciation for who he is and what he's become. And I hope I get the opportunity to meet him someday and just have a chat with him, because I think he is one cool motherfucker, and he has learned a lot in life that we can all learn, not just as traders, but as people as well. So that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sure it was a little bit longer than you expected, but there's just so much I could say about this, and there's so many gems and valuable lessons inside this series that I cannot recommend it enough. And so I hope you really take these 4 lessons to heart: the showing up for opportunities, dealing with losses and still being able to take risks. The third one, to take that tough, challenging energy that you're experiencing and work with that constructively, channel that energy and transform it into something useful, something productive, something creative. And then also kind of this no obstacle mindset, this moving forward relentlessly towards your goal. But if you believe something that you want in your future and the vision you have for it, then you have to move forward with that. It's not going to be a perfect trend. You're going to have pullbacks in this trend. You're going to have setbacks. You're going to have corrections. You're going to have reversals. But if you keep working and you keep learning from these lessons here, you will find success at the other end of it. And that can either be in trading or it can be in some other business in your life, but you will become successful. These variables are part of a recipe that continually breeds success. That's our goal at Second Skies, to create a recipe and these trainings and these tools and this mindset to help you succeed in trading and in life, to change the way you think, trade, and perform. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I look forward to your comments and questions. Please give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Check us out, secondskiesforex.com. And big thanks to the Defiant Ones, Dr. Dre, Jimmy Iovine. Everybody's made that thing. It was awesome. I cannot recommend it enough. I'll probably watch it again sometime because there's so much I learned from it, and I hope you do as well. So until then, good luck trading, and I'll see you in the next video.